Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Reagan and this is my channel, Ray Reads, and today I'm going to be giving you guys some tips on how to read more. Yeah. So I feel like this is something that is super timely since it is January and it's the beginning of the year, and a lot of people are setting goals to read more in 2022, which is definitely a goal that I have of my own. I want to increase my reading each year. I know some people who like to decrease their reading because they want to spend less time reading and more time like out in the world and with friends, and I totally understand that. My goal is just to like push myself even further because that's just the way that I am. I always want to push myself to be better and do better and try new things and just like see how far I can make it. I'm weird like that. So anyways, this is something that I've been trying to work on and focus on towards the end of last year and then moving into 2022, because I knew that if I set a high goal for myself, I wanted to be able to achieve it, and so I had to figure out ways in order to do that. So these are just my tips, the things that have helped me, the things that have worked. These are things that other people have told me to do, other things that I've just learned along the way, and of course it's only something that works for me, and it might not necessarily work for you, but I'm hoping that it does, and you can try these tips as well. But this isn't anything revolutionary. It's not like I'm gonna give you the secret to success. Like, it's pretty obvious. A lot of my tips are things you might have heard before, but I figured if it helps me, it might help you if you are struggling with wanting to read more. So this is just a list of things that have helped me. So I have about, I think, 8 tips. Some of them are kind of like a little bit overlapping. Okay, no, I have 7 tips. So the very first tip is something that is super hard for me to do, but I really try to make sure I am doing it, and that is reading books on 3 different mediums. So this just means always listening to an audiobook, always reading an ebook, and always reading a physical book. The reason why this is super important is because it gives you a chance to be reading something at all times. And I'll go a little bit further into that, but it's just really nice to be reading different mediums. Because if you get bored with one book, you can immediately switch to another and then like hop back and forth if you really need to. But it's just really helpful to always be reading a book on an audio. It's always good to be reading an ebook, and then obviously have a physical copy, whether that is a book from your own personal library or a book that you got from the public library. Either way, I just think it's really helpful to have a book in each medium. And then my second tip kind of goes along with that, and that is to always have a book on you. This is why I always say to be reading an ebook, because if you're out at the grocery store and you're waiting in line to check out, or you are going to order food, or you're going to order your coffee and you're waiting in line at the Starbucks, whatever it may be, if you have an ebook on you, you are always able to read. I read on Kindle Unlimited on my phone, so it's super nice because if I'm waiting in line at Starbucks or whatever, I can open up my Kindle app and read a couple pages. And you're probably like, Reagan, what is 2 pages worth of reading? Like, that is not worth my time. But if you read 2 pages 4 times a day while you're waiting in line for something, or you're sitting in the car waiting to pick somebody up, or whatever it may be, if you do that 5 times a day, that's 10 pages. And then if you do that for 30 days, that's 300 pages. That's a whole book that you consumed in a month just from always being able to just whip your phone out and read it at a moment's notice. I might have done the math wrong. I hope I didn't, because then I would look really dumb. So anyways, that is why I always recommend having an ebook on you. I just say always have a book on you. So this could be a physical book as well. A lot of times if I'm really enjoying my physical book and I know that I'm going somewhere, I will always take it with me, because I just never know, like, if there's going to be a moment where I'm just going to have some downtime and I want to be able to read it. I just always have it with me. So I always take a book with me everywhere I go. But if I'm not taking a book with me, I know that I always have my phone, and so therefore I have an ebook on there at all times. So that's super important to always have a book on you. The third tip also goes along with kind of always having a book on you or reading 3 different mediums, and that is audiobooks. Audiobooks really changed my life in 2021 when I started reading them, because I realized I could consume way more books when I was listening to audiobooks. There is hours upon hours of your day that are wasted doing menial tasks that you could be reading, but you're obviously not, because you're cooking, you're driving, you're cleaning, you're doing dishes, you're doing whatever you need to do that needs to get done. And because of that, you are wasting time. Not really wasting time, because those things have to get done, but you're spending time doing those things and not being able to consume a book. And so when you add in audiobooks to the mix, you're able to listen to audiobooks while you cook and clean and drive and work out and all the things that take a lot of time but are really menial, that you can put in your headphones and just listen while you do it. Something that I hate doing because it takes so much time is cooking. I don't actually hate the act of cooking. I just hate it because I feel like I'm wasting so much time, because it takes like an hour, hour and a half to cook something for me, because I'm a new cook, and so it takes me a little bit longer, and so I hate cooking for that reason. But now that I listen to audiobooks, I actually like look forward to it because I know that I get to consume an hour or an hour and a half of my book. The other thing with audiobooks is that you can listen at multiple speeds. So the normal speed is like 1x speed. That is the basic speed where you get the book for all 9 hours of it. But you can also increase your time to 2x speed, and then you cut your audiobook automatically in half. 2x speed is a little fast if you have never listened to quick voices, like if you haven't ever sped up anything, but you can definitely work your way up. When I first started listening to audiobooks, I would listen at 1x speed, and then I increased it to 1.15, and then 1.25, and then eventually I got all the way up to 2x speed, and that was kind of my max, and now I'm at like 2.4, 2.3. So it really just depends on how fast you like to listen to people talk and if you can like fully retain what they're saying, but it definitely takes time to kind of build that up. I think some people that I know on BookTube listen at like 3x speed, which is insane, but they're able to cut their book in thirds. So the audio, if it's 12 hours, it's only 4 hours for them. So super cool, takes up way less time, and then you get to consume an entire book in only 4 hours, which is crazy. So definitely play around with the listening speed if you're gonna listen to audiobooks. And then my last thing about audiobooks is make sure that you check out your library. They, a lot of times now, because we live in such like a electronic tech world, most public libraries have a app that they partner with that they put like their ebooks on, and you can listen to it for free. My library does Hoopla, and so I'm able to listen on Hoopla to so many books. They have plenty of romances on there, enough that will keep me busy for a very long time, and I don't have to pay for an Audible subscription, which just seems ridiculous to me. I already pay for a Kindle Unlimited subscription, so I don't want to spend more money on another subscription. So if you don't either, definitely check out Hoopla. I think the other one is Libby. That is the other one that a lot of different libraries use as well. So check with your public library and see which app they use, and definitely get on there if you want to start listening to audiobooks. The next tip that I have for you guys is one that I struggle with a lot and I find myself not doing, and it's something that I really want to work on this year, but it is skimming / reading unnecessary lines. So you know when you're reading a book and it's like, I went to the mall, she said, and then it's like, what did you find? I replied, and like skipping those random like she said, I replied lines, even though it seems like so silly and stupid, you're like, Reagan, that takes like a millisecond for me to read. But over time it does build up that you're able to kind of like skim read a little bit more and catch like the important parts, which I know sounds like, okay, Reagan, like you're taking it way too far. Like this is a book, you're supposed to enjoy it. And I totally agree, which is why I really do struggle with that, because when I get into the book, I just start reading every single word, like the whole page. I read every single word on that page. And sometimes if I like mispronounce it in my brain, I like go back and fix it, even though I know what it's trying to say, because I literally have to read every single word on the page. And so I struggle with doing this, but I know that it's something that a lot of people do, and it helps them be able to skim read and read a lot more books in a month, because they're able to just kind of like skim their eyes down the page and read the important parts and skip the things like I looked back at him, or skip the unimportant parts like my eyes blinked rapidly. Like we don't really need to know that. Like anyways, it's really helpful if you can manage to do that. I struggle with this a lot, so it's not something that I can really do, but if you can do it, I would highly recommend that. Okay, my next tip is something that I have not heard a lot of people say, but it's something that I highly recommend when you are trying to read a lot of books, and that is to immediately start a new book after you finish one. So if it's the end of the night and you've just finished a book, instead of going to sleep and trying to start one the next day, I say at least read the first like 5 to 10 pages of your new book, just so that you're already into the groove of a new book. I feel like sometimes if we read like a really good books and then we finish them out on that day, and then the next day we wake up, all we can think about is the book that we read yesterday, and that kind of is what gets us into a reading slump, and we don't want to be in a reading slump. That is terrible. And so picking up a book immediately after you finish one, whether you enjoyed it or not, I think just helps you get into the groove of, okay, we're starting the next book, let's go. Like jumping right into the next one, almost like it's a non-stop action, rather than like, okay, I finished this book, I have a little bit until I need to pick up a new one, because my brain is so focused on this one. My next tip kind of goes along with this as well, and that is to make a plan / a TBR for the month. If you don't know what TBR is, it's to be read. It's just like a acronym for saying to be read. So the books that you want to read that month, I would make a plan of books that are on your radar for that month. That way you know what you can jump to next. I have like so many books that are on my bookshelf that I have not read yet, and so sometimes when I finish a book, I'm like, okay, let me go to my library and pick out the next book that I'm gonna read. So I walk in here and then I spend 30 minutes staring at my shelf, because I'm like, I just don't know what I want to read. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. I don't know what's more important to read first. Like my friend really wants me to read this one, but my other friend really wants me to read this one, and I just like am at war with myself. So I think if you make a plan and you list out like 10 to 15 books that you want to read for sure that month. That really helps give you a guide and give you a path. So when you do need to pick up a new book, you kind of have a list to go to and then picking from there rather than the general list of your want to read list on Goodreads, which has like 400 books in it. It helps if you have a smaller list of things that you know these are books you want to read during this month. And then my last tip is pretty obvious. That is to spend less time watching TV or movies. If you really enjoy TV or movies, all power to you. I love it. Go ahead. Personally, for me, I would rather read a book than watch a season of something on Netflix. That's just me. I find more enjoyment in reading than I do watching something on TV. And so for me, it's kind of like if I enjoy reading and I want to read more and I don't enjoy Netflix as much as I do reading, then why am I spending hours and hours watching Netflix? If one episode is an hour, I just watch 20 of them. That's 20 hours. I could have read like 4 books in that time. So just prioritizing what you want to do and what you want to spend your time doing, I think is really important. I feel like that's pretty obvious. Since I stopped watching so much TV, I mean, I still watch like a movie every now and then. I'm married. My husband likes to watch stuff. Like I'll watch with him. I watch stuff. It's not like I'm like no TV, but now that I've stopped like spending so much time watching Netflix or watching TV or spending unnecessary time doing those things, I found myself consuming way more books because I'm able to physically read or put it in my headphones and listen to an audiobook or read on my phone, whatever it may be. And so I've been able to consume a lot more when I've made that a priority, a true priority in my life. That's really all I have for you guys today. I know it was a short video, super quick, straight into the point, but I just figured this might help some of you who are wanting to make reading a bigger priority in your life in 2022 and wanting to consume more books this year. My goal is 100 and that's pretty high for me. Last year I only read like 45, and then the year before that I read about 80, and that was during like the height of COVID. So I don't really know if I'll be able to hit 100, but it is a goal of mine this year. And so these are just things that I'm putting in place in order to reach that goal because I am like a very goal-driven person. And so that's just me, but hopefully these tips are able to help you in your journey of reading and reading more books, however that may look and however many that may be. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can press that down below, as well as the little bell that gives you notification every time I post. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.
She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's